On tax, kanina na-discuss natin yung sa tax revenues, ano? And I'd like to point out, because we did some fact-checking, ano? And there are some interesting revelations do sa leakages. Number one, and I already mentioned this during the DBCC committee hearing, yung products imported from China in 2017, because para mag-apples to apples, lahat ng papakita namin, yung data in the 2017, in year 2017. If you look at the slide, yung as reported by the Philippines, ang pumasok sa ating goods from China, imported from China, $18.4 billion. No? But as reported by China, and the source here is yung WITS, on World Bank's World Integrated Trade Solution. Ano? As reported by China, ang in-export nila sa Pilipinas, 32 billion. So, right away, we can see a discrepancy of 13.5 billion pesos, dollars. And ang rate noong 2017 is 50.4 pesos to a dollar. So, immediately, pag kinumpute natin yung VAT na lang of the 684.8 billion pesos times 12% VAT, nawala na tayo agad ng, o may leakage tayo ng 82.1 billion. That's not all, ano? Because we also got the records from Korea, yung importation from Korea. As reported by the Philippines, $8.8 billion yung in-import natin from Korea. As reported by Korea, 10.5 billion. So meron na naman difference o discrepancy na 1.7 billion or 89 billion pesos at same rate, ano? Kasi it's same year. Times 12% VAT, nawala na naman tayo ng 10.7 billion. Another one, products imported from Hong Kong, the same thing. Ano? Nawala na naman tayo, revenue loss of 4.757 billion. Again, products imported from the US in 2017, nawala na naman tayo ng 853 million pesos. No? So, and then, kung narinig natin yung, yan, mukhang bata pa si Jose Carl dyan, pero kakakausap sa mga congressman, senador. Anyway, ito yung statement niya. I presented in the tax reform hearings in more than 500 ecozones in the Philippines. All are separate customs territories with possibly a lot of leakage. Ano? Ang computation niya sa leakage in 2017 alone, 63 billion pesos. So to sum it all up, dito pa lang, hindi pa natin wala pa yung sa Middle East, wala pa yung ibang countries. Ito lang yung mga big trading partners natin. Ang revenue loss natin or leakage and this involves tax administration, 161.5 billion pesos. Now, question, are there efforts to plug the leakages? Kasi baka hindi na natin kailangan yung additional syntaxes kung mapaplug natin itong leakages. Because right away, we can collect an additional 161.5 billion doon lang sa pinakita nating importations from a few countries, ano? For that matter, China, US, Korea, Hong Kong.
Yes, Your Honor, it's a very valid point, and according to the Secretary of Finance, they're trying their best. I think there's been some increase in administrative efficiency, but somewhat minimal. But according to the Secretary of Finance, the discrepancy between the declarations is because China declares as exports even goods for transshipment, meaning if the goods are sent to the Philippines but bound for Australia, for instance, they are still declared as an export, whereas we don't declare if it's just passing through as transshipment. It's not declared as an import on our end, Your Honor.
My point is, Mr. President, distinguished sponsor, if we go back to the previous slide, no, the actual deficit in 2017 was recorded at 350.6 billion pesos, equivalent to the 3.2 of the GDP. Pakibalik nga yung dating slide. 3 isa pa, balik pa. Yung 3.2%, ayan. No? Assuming that we were able to plug the 161.2 billion in revenue losses, anong magiging change? Anong impact nito sa budget deficit sa ano natin sa
Kung na-plug ho
budget
natin
deficit?
yun?
Kung na-plug natin,
Baka wala na ho
magkano
tayong deficit at all.
well, 189 billion ang maging diferensya.
Kung
In other words,
677 sa 1/4,
instead na
around
3.2% yung deficit target natin,
Magiging
bababa ito sa
2.4 na lang.
1.7% of GDP. So you can just imagine if the tax administration of the national government is that efficient, as we are able to plug big or huge leakages in the tax collection, laking bagay, hindi po ba?
Yes, Your Honor, we fully agree with you. And they're mentioning that they're trying to ramp up the fuel marking as an administrative measure, Your Honor.
Well, understand, nung nagsimula yung fuel marking, ang laki na nang na-plug. I think you have some data on that, When you implemented the fuel...
They just started October, I think,
and
Your Honor.
magkano na yung incremental increase? Wala pa.
Bago pa lang.
I would assume, hindi, pero may effect na rin siguro kagad.
We will ask for them for some figures, Your Honor.
Yeah, sige. Okay.
End of the year.
Wag na tong train revenue performance kasi masyadong,
They will see in the next few months, Your Honor, when they
Okay.
see when they compare the month by month
Yeah.
collections of fuel. Ho.
Ito, just to be transparent, ito po yung pinanggalingan ng mga pinakita ko kaninang mga figures. Yung World Integrated Trade Solution, andyan lahat po yan. Nakikita naman natin, naka-record lahat. Hindi po kami nag-iimbento ng numero. Just to show
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, next topic would be yung budgetary deficit, Parang yung revenues against disbursements, kasi sa DBM's glossary of terms, yung budget deficit refers to the shortfall of revenues from disbursements, excluding, of course, debt repayments and payments on budgetary accounts, Now, considering that disbursements come after the subject fiscal year, while obligations, iba yung obligation, di ba? Pag obligation,
Yes, Your
ito
Honor.
yung for the same,
Opo.
di ba? Nasa special provision naman yan. Di ba mas tama na i-compute natin yung budget deficit as the difference between obligations and not disbursements. Kasi pag sinabing obligation, sayo mo sa gusto, babayaran mo yun eh. Pero bakit kino-compute natin yung budget deficit sa difference between disbursement
But ang question niya, why not obligation instead of disbursement? Because it is a cash deficit according to the officials.
revenue-
And when you say
We're
it's a
talking of
cash basis,
revenue-
it's a cash basis, Your Honor. So it's the amount of money that leaves the treasury rather than obligation, which is just a contract. But you're correct; it's binding on the government, but
Yeah.
it does not represent the cash position of the government, Your Honor.
Okay. Yung tax revenue program. Okay. Year in and year out, ito yung situation natin. We never hit our tax revenue projections. Saan ba pwedeng ma-attribute ito? Aside from, of course, leakages.
Well, I think they set it quite high in the first place to incentivize the collectors to work hard, Your Honor. And but the Secretary of Finance is stating that the gap is shrinking. So he's trying to say they've been performing better over the years.
Okay, fair enough. Sige, skip na natin yung sa... Ito, let's go now to the budget, yung 2020 proposed budget. Now, for the proposed 2020 budget, yung total disbursements, 4.213. 4.1 trillion, ito yung expenditure program. Hence, may difference tayong 113.8 billion. Pero yung gap should be funded by the unprogrammed appropriations amounting to 216. Andiyan, program appropriations, 216 billion pesos. Now, my question is, Ano yung unprogrammed appropriations that you intend to fund the 113.8 billion? And a related question is, why is the unprogrammed appropriations higher than the supposed gap between disbursements and expenditure and the expenditure program? May difference eh, oh. Mga 103 billion.
According to the LBMRO, the gap between the disbursements and the expenditure is not necessarily the unprogrammed appropriations for that year, Your Honor, because the disbursements can represent obligations for that fiscal year, but it can also represent previous year's obligations since we were not on a cash budget. So may mga accounts payable na nag-carry over, and that's counted in the disbursements, Your Honor.
Pero nasa cash-based budgeting na tayo eh.
Opo, pero in the past years ho, nag-carry over pa rin ho yung, because
The reason I ask is because, you know, yung unprogrammed funds, hindi ito, wala sa radar natin ito eh, hindi natin na-discuss. And we want to find out, we just want to look into yung sa unprogrammed appropriations. And merong provision dyan sa GAA, merong reportorial requirement that every quarter, ayan o, DBM shall submit to the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, the House Committee on APRO, and Committee on Finance.
yes, Your Honor,
Quarterly report.
I agree
Are
with you.
they-
It's a large amount of money, and
Are
it
they
would be good.
submitting, are they complying with this?
Meron po, nasa GAB ho. And just for the record, the 213 is broken down as support for infrastructure projects and social programs, SIPSP 10 billion, approximately AFP modernization, approximately 5 billion, budgetary support to government-owned controlled corporations, 61.8 billion, support to foreign-assisted projects, 90.3 billion approximately, risk management program, 30 billion, payment of arrears of LTO IT service, 2 billion, refund of service development fee for the right to develop the Nampedai property in Tokyo, Japan, 210 million approximately. Prior years LGU shares, 1.192 billion. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Equity Infusion pursuant to RA 11211, 2.7 billion. National ID System, 2.43 billion approximately. Normalization Program in the Bangsamoro, 5 billion. HFEP or Health Facilities Enhancement Program, 5.44 billion approximately, totaling the 200 billion or so. Mr.
It's all
President.
right. Kaya lang, hindi natin na-discuss na yan during budget deliberations, di ba?
Totoo po.
Kaya lang gusto kong just to put it on record.
Yes, Your
Now,
Honor.
which brings us to the next item, yung support for infra and social program. Ano? Next slide.
Ano yan?
There's a budget allocation amounting to 13.6 billion. Pero yung budgetary transfers to agencies from this item, 16.6 billion. Easily, there's an excess adjustment of 3 billion plus, 3.10 3,10,855,000. Now, ang tanong is, saan na-source yung excess na 3 billion?
They are looking for it right now, Mr.
Yeah, yung
President.
2018, ano? Where was the excess adjustment sourced from?
Yung excess.
Yeah. (2018)
Okay. Mr. President, Your Honor, the amount referred to by Senator Lacson, the 3.01 billion approximately, was realigned from the risk management program budgeted for that year, Your Honor.
risk management program.
Opo.
Now,
It's also under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Ano ba yung support for infra projects and social program? Kindly enlighten us or define what it is. Support for infra and social program.
Well, the special provision in the GAA says the amount appropriated herein for support for infrastructure projects and social programs, this is while we're waiting for the breakdown from DBM, Your Honor, is chargeable and used in support for infrastructure projects and social programs such as but not limited to catastrophe bond. We're waiting for the breakdown from DBM,
Okay.
Your Honor. Wala kayo niya? Wala kayong breakdown niya?
Alam ko tinotal natin ito noon eh. 257 ba? Parang 257 billion ano? Sige, mamaya na lang, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think they're having a problem retrieving the data, but we'll hold them to that
yeah, we can move
to
on.
submit it, Your Honor. We
Kasi
apologize
the
for that.
next question is related to borrowings. Ano? Sabi nga kanina, di-discuss natin, we're borrowing more than what we have programmed to spend. Ano? But then, if we look at the unused appropriations, and we're using the SAOB, yung 2017, no? If we unused, doon sa unused tayo. Unused appropriations, yan. Okay. Taking off from, sabi ni Secretary Jokno, yung definition na underspending, di ba? Program appropriations versus actual after 3 years. No? So, nag-refer tayo sa 2017 budget. If you notice, ito yung mga agencies na may mga unused. So, here we are, borrowing more than what we need kasi gusto nating mag-build up ng cash as you said. Pero taon-taon naman, ang lalaki ng hindi natin nagagamit sa budget. So it doesn't make sense because we borrow to use or to build up the cash position. Pero hindi rin natin, pag tinotal natin ito, I think ang estimate ng namin lumalabas na sa mga 257 billion. So, why are we appropriating or enacting the appropriations measure, tapos hindi naman din natin nagagamit yung full potential ng budget? 257 billion is a huge amount. Ano?
Tama po, Mr. President.
Bakit kaya malaki yung unused?
It's a perennial problem yung underspending, and perhaps the appetite for spending has grown faster than the capacity to spend. That's the evidence presented by the gentleman. So kami naman ho sa komite, tinitingnan din ho namin yung mga agencies, and when we look at the needs like for free tertiary education, for PhilHealth, na andyan na talaga yung pangangailangan, baka pwedeng ilipat dun sa mga ahensya na hindi talaga nagagamit based on their disbursement rate.
And I think it has something to do with planning, di ba? If you plan poorly, then you will not be able to utilize the appropriations as fast as enacted. And that brings me to my favorite topic. Kaya masama yung planning because hindi alam ng agencies. And the agency heads can attest to this, that sometimes there are items in their budget or lots in their departments na hindi nila alam kung paano i-implement. Only because these are insertions made by legislators. And they were not consulted when these items or projects or PAPs were inserted in the budget. So ang result, hindi ma-implement. Pag hindi na-implement, may unused.